Okay, that's an interesting mixed picture at the moment. But there is a sizable representation, 38%, that's saying there is a plan for inclusive education. How many questions do we have left?
We have total 35, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe around 10, maybe.
Okay, so we haven't got to, what time is it now? 15 more minutes.
We are now on time.
We're on time, another 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then lunch.
Then there will be a reward.
But the information code is useful. Oh yeah. And then we just have a few very quick questions that we'll just write down about the platforms to use. Okay, this is Israel Inclusion Unit, which supports students with disabilities during enrollment and study. At NTU, we have a student support unit where staff are assigned to specific students with a statement to ensure that their onboarding in university and study and even progression through to employment, they have a direct member of staff assigned to help them with their issues, with their challenges and needs. So, is there such a unit at your institution? Thank you.
So 35 down, so I think we'll go.
So the majority are saying no, it's 66%, but 20%, a starting point, there is an inclusion unit to support staff, students on onboarding, with learning difference, neurodiverse students at the moment. So it's a developing picture. Thank you. Is there a specialised programme for peer support between non-disabled students and students with disabilities? So NTU will have a peer support system. We pair students up together to be mentored and supported by students, their peers without disabilities. Just, if there's not, please put that in. Because it's something else we can suggest. How we do this at NTU, and we can have a nice Moodle course and some guidelines. Something that you can practically implement. We pair students up with buddies to show them around, to help them, to give them, provide support, like a circle of support, so that the students aren't left in isolation. What we're trying to do is provide a circle of support for our students, not one population of students and another population who are requiring support but don't know how to ask.
I want to say, let's say NTU has so many facilities for disabled students.
Yeah.
How will affect Brazil in terms of job?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our main things, NTU prides itself on its employability record. I think it's something like 99% get immediate. So one of the things, and it really appeals to parents when they come to Open Day, is a record at NTU. 99% of our students get a job very soon after graduation. That really appeals to the parents.
So no,
Including students with disabilities, yeah.
they have no special quota.
Quota, the quota is 99%. Yes.
If they have a job, but there's competition.
Yeah.
So disabled students.
Yeah. We're no longer saying, and you know, in some of the models we use, we're not, disability is the social model. Very often we say students are challenged. Employers and educators need to produce are the ones which turn an impairment into a disability. We have to get the materials right, the environment right. It's the way we produce materials and environment which causes a disability. People have impairments, but you're causing the access barrier if you write your materials in one way. If we make, for example, facilities, with no ramps or lifts, that causes disability. It's an impairment. So we adopt a social model rather than a medical model. And that's really, a lot of us are computer scientists. You are the ones creating an inaccessible interface. Okay, that was no on that one.
So, well, is the institution has got an accessibility officer. So, well, if your institution probably does not have accessibility guidelines, the answer might be no. Yeah.
And what I want to say to you is this wasn't the case at British universities until more recently. After the Equality Act in the UK in 2010, things began to move much more quickly. When I was at university, I would have said the position, and we went to university at a similar time, in the UK there weren't these policies. There weren't these policies to welcome students with disabilities or neurodiverse students. It has changed over the years. It will change over the years in Bangladesh too. And what this leads to is a more diverse workforce. Many students that we work with, say students with autism, do incredibly well in certain jobs. We have a high percentage in computer science, and some of the jobs which require attention to detail. But if we don't make the adjustments at university, we're missing out on all that talent. But there has been a gradual process in the UK. We're not here proselytizing. We're just saying the changes have been made, and they can make, and it's really important for, as we all move to a knowledge-driven economy.
Okay, for particularly these questions, you need to press the send button after you check your answer. Otherwise, it won't come to answer, right? So you will see there is a send button for this one, because this can take multiple answers. If you go down, you will say
There is no option. The position.
No, there is a send button at the very bottom.
If there is no officer, or psychologist or social.
So if you have that, you will just check mark. Otherwise, leave it unchecked. That's
Which
it.
one? So, okay, if there's none of these.
No, so if you are not checking anything, that means a no. If you have it, just check it more. Yeah.
So, Arif is saying if you're checking none of these boxes, just press the send button. Okay.
So if you have all, you can check all of them. If you have one or two, just check those options and press send. Yeah, we got the answer.
We want to make sure all those people can access to
It's good to see that there are officers who report discrimination for teaching assistants as expected, and then psychologists which have the highest number. So that's a good finding. Now let's move on to the next one.
Quality of life. So this is about assistive technology. Which of the following statements apply to your institution about assistive technology and software? Screen readers, dictaphones, Zoom text, magnifiers. There's text-to-speech and speech-to-text engines. Many people don't realize that a lot of these are free for use. We have huge databases of free to use assistive technology. We have a range of trusted apps which are available on your iPhones or Android phones that you can download and use to support your students with a range of impairments. There's some easy wins. Okay? So assistive technology are not provided at all, but can be bought from a student's budget. That's interesting. So immediately that would, if that is the case, both statements are true, that means that students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, because of that, might be excluded. It might be a barrier to their involvement in higher education. Okay, next question. Learner-centered design approach with a focus on the student and learning instead of teaching. So we have a number of different approaches and trends, such as flipped learning, collaborative learning groups, flexible ways of assessment. Course guides are very important. Students are allowed, especially in later years, to choose their courses. We have a lot of flexible exam arrangements that people really need different ways of giving their answers. Additional time for people with information processing. And diversity in the curriculum in terms of how it's designed. The practical sessions. Flipped learning sessions. Are you aware of any of these at the moment? And culturally can be different. I know most of you said since you moved to Saudi, it's very different.
Indeed. So, because there could be some cultural aspects within the student population as well, okay? So does the curriculum actually take those into consideration? So are there any specific way when you as faculty members are involved in curriculum design? Okay, so do you have any such information which you are advised to take into consideration while designing curriculum?
So, some promising results, so especially around things like flexible ways of assessment. But then an equal number saying no. Okay, so I think that's an emergent picture. Okay. Okay. The next question. Next question. Okay. My institution ensures teaching and learning practices are learner-centered by encouraging the following. You can take as many as you want. Flexible course design, flexible instruction materials, flexible course assessment, flexible and accessible course assessment, extra time for studies, extra time for exams, the use of non-discriminatory use of language, or none of the above. Does your institution include any of these policies? If one or more, please tick them. Give me an example, Ira, of a flexible course assessment.
Right, so sometimes we might have a student with dyslexia, okay, so who got a bit of learning difficulties. Now, in our context, we always say that the exam time, let's say 3 hour, 4 hour, 2 hours is designated, and we all provide, all the students get the equal time. Okay. However, if we don't know about whether we have any student with dyslexia or not, we may give him the equal time when he's already suffering with some learning disabilities. Even we don't know. But by default, if we know the student is suffering with dyslexia, that learning disabilities are there, the student should get some additional time. I mean, from my experience, I found we don't have that practice. Okay? Now, it's a long journey, but if we know that it's medically proven that student is suffering with dyslexia, we can say, yes, the student will get 10 minutes, 15 minutes additional time. And that can be incorporated in the course design. Like, yes, student with this kind of special challenge will get that. Okay? So, it is something when we are designing the course, it have to be designed there.
Okay.
Okay?
And it's a good picture. Already 47% of you are saying you give extra time for students who need it. So that's a good picture. So my institution promotes and encourages inclusion by applying the following: waiving tuition fees for marginalized groups, flexible admission depending on language requirements. You provide scholarships or grants for some students, free education, totally free education for some students, targeted enrollment, for instance, making information about application easier for minority students, student orientation and guidance such as tutoring, peer support, introduction tours for students, contact between students from different backgrounds, for instance, students with disabilities or minority backgrounds, and students without inclusion or different gender, or students from sexual minority groups. Working with group interaction. So what inclusive policies do you have, taking as many again, at your university already to support and enable onboarding and retention of these students?
Sorry for the overlapping text because it was a bit long. I think your phone should reflect that right font.
So it's a very interesting picture. Really interesting picture. And I have to say that it's different from the UK. Hardly any groups we waive tuition fees for in higher education. So I think it's a better picture at the moment in Bangladesh. I've tried my best to get fees waived for certain students, especially migrant students or students escaping conflict in Europe. And it's very difficult in challenging economic times to do that in Europe. So I think there's a better picture here in Bangladesh for that. So, my institution promotes an inclusive environment. So this is just an answer. Do you think overall your institution promotes an inclusive environment? Strongly agree, disagree, neutral agree, strongly agree. Yeah?
Strongly agree.
By ensuring it's physically accessible. Are there adjustments made at your university? So, if you had a student with a mobility issue, such as needing a stick or a wheelchair, are there policies or adjustments for students with physical and mobility impairments? Okay. And what time? Okay. Okay. There are a few more questions. It's really interesting. It's really important that we start with this. But we want to stick to schedule. We don't want to deprive you of your lunch. And it's a session we can shorten right at the end. So I suggest we pause here with your interactive exercise and enjoy some lunch together. An opportunity to have something to eat and to talk to each other. So we'll stop at this point, move to lunch, have a nice rest, some nice food, go for a walk, have a chat. And what time do we come back, Mufti? 2 o'clock.
So 2 o'clock we'll start with the rest of the questions. So there are a few more questions left, okay? So we'll first start with those questions, and then we will continue to the other sessions.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for your morning. It's been incredibly useful, and thank you for your participation. And I guess lunch is outside.
Just a second. So there are two things that we need to do now actually. The first one is that because the session is recorded and photographed, we actually would need your consent, okay, to be recorded and photographed. So there are some consent forms to sign. I think they are lying down the bottom. Yes. If I can just request you to read them, okay? So at the back of it, so there are 2 pages, okay? So 2 sides of the single page. And then what I would need is people to read them and put your name and sign at the back.
The lunch will be served in the next room. The room is called Ruby. So there is a security restriction because the chief advisor is coming to the next room. So I mean they request us to. I mean if we take the food, they request us to go to the Ruby room.
Okay, to stay in the room. Away from
I really didn't know.
What is it?